Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're talking about a neighborhood that, well, it literally vanished. And I don't mean it just faded away or got gentrified. We're talking about a whole community, schools, clubs, homes, that was intentionally paved over, buried under an avenue.
It sounds like something out of a novel, but it's the real history of a place in Santa Fe, Argentina called El Campito.
El Campito.
Exactly. And the sources we have, they're mostly oral histories, interviews with people who live there. It lets us sort of piece together this forgotten world.
And that's what makes this so fascinating. This is an ancient history. It's not colonial ruins we're digging up.
No, this is recent past urban archaeology. I mean, we're talking about a place that was alive and well just 60 years ago.
So that's our mission for this deep dive, to reconstruct what life was like in El Campito, figure out what forces, natural and man-made, led to it being wiped off the map, and ask why its story is still so unknown. Okay, so let's set the scene. Where exactly was this place?
So it was right in the heart of Santa Fe's Port District. Think of an area roughly between Juan de Garay and Cruz Roja Argentina streets, right up against the port itself.
So a working neighborhood.
Very much so. Its formal name was Paraje El Campito, but it was anything but a temporary camp. This was a permanent, settled community, and its entire identity was shaped by the port.
And that's a key point, isn't it? This wasn't a slum, it was a structured community.
Absolutely. The men who lived there were stevedores, laborers in Deek 1 and Deek 2 of the port. Their whole world, their rhythm, revolved around the ships coming in and out.
You mentioned their pay in the source material. It was about 8 pesos a day back in 1933.
It was, yeah.
How good was that? I mean, what does 8 pesos actually tell us?
It tells us they were essential. That was an excellent wage for the time. It was specialized, grueling work, and they were paid for it. We're talking almost double what a general laborer might make.
So these are proud working class guys, not poor, not disposable.
Exactly. And you could even see that pride and that pragmatism in the way they dressed for work.
Right, it wasn't about fashion at all.
No, it was pure function. They wore bombacha pants, these loose-fitting trousers, and simple rope slippers called alpargatas.
But the really important stuff was for protection, wasn't it?
Yes, 2 things. A tight black sash around the waist that was to prevent hernias from the heavy lifting, and thick leather wristbands, which they used to cushion their shoulders when they were hauling these huge sacks of grain.
Wow, just mentioning that is intense. So how did this specialized workforce actually get into the port every day?
There was a famous entrance at the corner of Belgrano and Moreno. They called it the Molinette.
The turnstile.
A simple wooden turnstile. But it was iconic. It forced every single worker to enter one by one. It was this physical barrier between their home, their community, and the industrial world where they made their living.
Okay, so let's step out of the docks and into the neighborhood itself. It sounds like a pretty rough and tumble place.
It was, and the businesses there were tailored perfectly for that life. You had places that were more than just stores. They were social hubs.
Like La Glorieta.
Exactly. Run by a man named Coco Guia's father. They sold the basics. Yerba, rice, noodles, all sold loose. But their real specialty was refreshment.
And they were not messing around with that.
Not at all. The sources say they had 6 giant 200-liter casks of Fortin wine.
6 of them.
6. That sheer volume tells you everything about the culture. This was the place you went after a shift. Of course, you also had the other essentials. A barbershop, warehouses, a butcher, and yes, the sources are very clear, there were also casas de tolerancia brothels.
It's a very specific ecosystem.
Yeah.
You mentioned the men carrying a tool, the faca.
Right, the faca. And it's important to clarify, this wasn't a knife for fighting. It was a pointed tool, like a spear or a cannula that they used to sample the grain from the sacks.
But it was sharp. It could be a weapon.
Oh, absolutely. Which is why the community had rules.
What kind of rules?
Well, they had big dances, bailongos, at places like Doña Vicenta Colombo's, and the number 1 rule was simple. You leave your faca at the door.
So work tools stay at work.
Exactly. They drew a very clear line. This is a place for socializing, not for conflict.
They also built their own entertainment, didn't they? It wasn't just taverns and dance halls.
No, they were very organized. They had multiple Canchas de Boches bowling alleys.
Oh.
And they had actual sports clubs.
Like Tigre FC.
Right, which was a boxing club. A fighter named Ramon Vargas got his start there. And then there was Club Laval, which was the main social center. It had 2 bowling alleys, a card room, a place for dominoes. It was the hub.
This all points to a really dense communal life. What about the housing itself?
The housing was primarily conventillos, which are basically tenement houses. You'd have a large central courtyard, and all the individual rooms would open onto it.
So you're living right on top of each other.
Very much so. There's this one great anecdote in the source material about the men lining up after work, towels slung over their shoulders, waiting their turn for the communal showers. That one image really captures that shared collective way of life. But here's where the story gets really interesting. We talked about contrast, and this is the biggest one. Right in the middle of all this, the docks, the taverns, the boxing clubs, there was a school.
The National Professional Learning and Guidance School number 30.
And not just any school. This was a serious, rigorous educational institution.
And so out of place.
Totally. Even the land it was on had a history of contrast. It was built on the site of an old carpentry shop and a mechanical workshop where they used to prepare racing cars.
From race cars to technical drawing.
You got it. And the curriculum was incredibly advanced for a vocational school at that time. They taught technical drawing, both linear and freehand, math, history, geography, physics, general culture. It was a complete education.
This wasn't just shop class then.
Not even close. The vocational training was the real deal. They focused on things like fine carpentry and, get this, the construction of wooden boats.
Actual boats.
Yes, canoes and sailboats. One of the sources mentions that a sailboat was built there for a member of the Supisiche family, a very prominent family. This was high-level craftsmanship.
The real proof of quality, though, is where the graduates end up.
And this is the most amazing detail of all. The school's reputation was so good that the French railway system...
The French railway.
The French railway would send recruiters all the way to Santa Fe to hire the best graduates from this little portside school.
That's incredible.
It guaranteed these kids immediate high-status employment. It was a direct pipeline out of dock labor and into a technical career.
So even with all the grit of the port, there was this intense focus on upward mobility. It's an amazing contrast.
It is. And there's even a little ghost of that industrial past left. When the old carpentry shop moved out, they left a big square pit where their log cutting saw was. The school just filled it with sand and built over it.
Yep.
And today, people report that the floor in that exact spot of the school still sinks a little. The past is literally still there, just underneath the surface.
So we have this complex, functioning, ambitious community. How on earth does a place like that get completely wiped out? It just seems impossible.
It was the strange paradox, really. It was a slow-motion disaster caused by the city's response to a natural problem.
Which was flooding.
Constant flooding. They called it the Marahada, a storm surge that came from the north. And the city's solution, every single time, was just to dump more stuff on the street.
Rubble, dirt, sand, whatever they had.
Anything to raise the street level. But they only raised the streets. They never raised the houses.
Oh, wow. I see where this is going.
It must have looked so bizarre. Over years and years, the street level rose higher than the front doors of the houses.
So people's windows were at ground level.
Half covered. Eventually, residents had to build stairs down into their own homes. It was like they were living in cellars, even though they were on the ground floor. The city was basically burying them in place.
That is just unbelievable apathy.
Yeah.
So when did the final blow come?
It happened in two phases, really. The first big displacement was back around 1930 for the first major expansion of the port.
Yeah.
But the final total erasure came in 1961. That's when the official notices went out. Everyone had to leave to make way for the new Avenida Mar Argentino.
And the sources even named the last person to leave.
They do. A man named Lando Cobian. He held out until the very end.
So now, when people drive down that avenue, is there anything left at all? Any marker?
Almost nothing. There is one single solitary piece of evidence. A masonry storm drain cover a Boca de Tormenta at the corner of San Luis and Buenos Aires.
And how is that still visible?
Because the street rose so high around it, they had to build a curb up to meet it. So it stands there, this lonely little monument, the only marker of the entire neighborhood buried just beneath the asphalt.
And it gets to the heart of it. The misconception.
That's the whole point of this research. People driving on that avenue today, they just assume it was built on a swamp or a wasteland, empty space.
When in reality?
In reality, they're driving over a whole world, a place of work, of community, of education, a piece of history that was paved over and forgotten.
It's just so striking when you put it all together, the sheer complexity of El Campito, a place where you have, on one hand, 6 200-liter casks of wine for thirsty workers.
Right.
And on the other, a technical school so good that it was a recruiting ground for the French railway. It's a story of incredible industry and ultimately sacrifice.
And it really makes you think about urban planning and how we value or devalue certain communities. The writer Beatrice Sarlo has a term, oreillero. It's not a slur, it just means someone from the edges, a person of essential work and labor.
And in this case, the city treated these essential oreilleros and their entire world as disposable.
They just paved over it. They treated history like it was just empty residue that needed to be cleared for a new road.
Which means the narrative we get from the planners, building a highway on a wasteland, is often just a cover story for burying a community.
And the hope behind the sources we've been looking at is that this story might inspire someone, an architecture student, a journalist, to literally start digging.
Because it's still there.
They believe it is, just a meter or two down. The foundations, the floors, the artifacts of that entire life are just waiting to be uncovered.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. As you think about this buried history in Santa Fe, ask yourself, what vibrant settlement, ancient or, like this one, very recent, might be lying just a few feet beneath the streets and buildings of your own city, just waiting for its story to be told? It really changes how you see the ground under your feet.